one undisputed takeaway from the Mueller report is that Russia conducted a sustained campaign of interference in the 2016 U.S. election, but there is no assessment of what, if any, impact this had on the result. How big or small and affected all those Facebook posts and tweets, written by Russian trolls posing as pro-Donald Trump Americans to attack Hillary Clinton, have on the electorate? Did the hacking and leaking of a trove of emails and other material, stolen by Russian military intelligence operatives, from the Democratic National Committee and the Clinton campaign make any difference when American men and women cast their vote? Would Trump have won the White House regardless? Referring to what he characterized as anything the Russians did concerning the 2016 election, President Trump stated this week on Twitter, "The vote was not affected. But how can he know? How can anyone be sure? And why is this question not being asked more loudly? It is an issue both Democrats and Republicans alike can unite over. Would the outcome of the polls have been different if the Kremlin had not, as alleged, interfered?" One quote speaking to this question stands out in the redacted version of the report by special counsel Robert Mueller and his team into Russian interference. It read simply, "Putin has won." The message was sent on November 9, 2016 by an unidentified person to Kirill Dmitriev, the head of Russia's sovereign wealth fund who is said to be close to President Vladimir Putin, after it was reported that Mrs. Clinton had called Mr. Trump at about 2:40 am to concede defeat. The Kremlin has repeatedly denied involvement in any election meddling. Remember, the Russian leader himself said as much to President Trump during their first summit in Finland last year. President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today, the U.S. Commander-in-Chief told a news conference at the time. But the first volume of the two-volume Mueller report sets out in immaculate detail the known extent of the Russian interference operation, which it said dates back to as early as 2014. A lot of the details about the disinformation operations promoting Trump and attacking Clinton, as well as the hack and leak attack, had already been released through court filings. Charges were made last year against 13 Russian nationals as well as 3 Russian companies for their alleged activities on platforms such as Facebook and Twitter, while 12 Russian intelligence officers have been charged over the hacking offenses. However, it is worth recapping some of the highlights as cited in the report. Russia's Internet Research Agency, accused of running pro-Trump trolls and automated bots on Facebook, Twitter and other platforms, had social media accounts that reached tens of millions of U.S. persons, it said. Posts from some of these Russian accounts were retweeted unwittingly by high-profile supporters of then-candidate Trump, including his sons, Donald J. Trump Jr. and Eric Trump. On September 19, 2017, President Trump's personal account at Real Donald Trump responded to a tweet from the IRA-controlled account at L0_GOP, the backup account of @10_GOP, which had already been deactivated by Twitter. The tweet read, "We love you, Mr. President," the Mueller report said. These fake accounts even set up rallies using unwitting supporters in the U.S. In most cases, the IRA account operator would tell the U.S. person that they personally could not attend the event due to some pre-existing conflict or because they were somewhere else in the United States, the report said. The special counsel's office said it had identified dozens of rallies organized by the Russian agency since November 2015. From June 2016, almost all of the U.S. rallies organized by the IRA focused on the U.S. election, often promoting the Trump campaign and opposing the Clinton campaign, it said. Mr. Mueller was not expressly tasked with finding out the impact of the Russian interference on the outcome of the polls. He and his team were charged with investigating the attack, assessing whether there was any criminal conspiracy between the Kremlin and members of the Trump campaign, and looking at whether the president obstructed justice in his actions. However, the question of the effect of the Russian actions on the election result remains unanswered. Perhaps, given the nebulous nature of the influence that was being exerted on American voters, it is impossible to answer with any accuracy. But I would love to read the conclusions of any research that has been done into this. It should be an issue of concern to all nations that cherish democracy and free speech but are left vulnerable to attacks by those who use our freedoms to exploit divisions and potentially influence the outcome of elections. Sky Views is a series of comment pieces by Sky News editors and correspondents, published every morning.